Do it, bro.
This conference is being recorded.
Hello, everybody. This is Rob McFadden. I have got on the line with us Mr. Ryan Lelf and Mr. Ed Kilgore, and depending on time, we'll see how many of us actually are going to weigh in on this call. I know I have some things to share, and I certainly know from the earlier call Ryan has some things to share. Right now, this is the Project Freedom 100 leadership call that we normally do on Friday mornings. However, we had a little bit of a technical difficulty this morning, and we lost our recording. So instead of not doing the call altogether for everybody else to participate with, we've decided to reconvene, do another call, and re-record it because I think that, as do these other leaders, that there is such good content that comes out of this particular call that there is no reason why we should not have one recorded and posted for everybody to participate. So with that, we're going to go ahead and hand the time over to Ryan Lelf, who's going to kickstart us and take about the first 10-12 minutes of our time. So Ryan, you're calling in from the great state of Chicago, are you not?
It's actually the state of Illinois, but yes.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing I have this recorded, so I meant the great state of Illinois.
I love it, yes. It's, my good friend Curtis Dobson and my other brother from another mother, Danny Youngers. We are headed to the Wake Up Now event in Chicago. Looking forward to hearing from Jason Elrod, our president, tonight. And, man, we're just having a good time. I mean, we are busting the gun, laughing, just cutting up. You know, I tell you what, guys, there has to be a fun factor in just life, living. I mean, you only live once, and we say that, and it kind of rolls off our
Muted.
to hear it, but what does that mean, you know? And so anyway, guys, thanks for listening in and tuning in. I definitely want to go back and share a couple of the thoughts that I discussed earlier on the call that got some incredible feedback from, but I get to add something that I'm telling you, you got to be sitting down when I read this to you, okay? So anyway, what I really want to start off with is what I was discussing earlier today, and that is I was reading something yesterday about, I mean, I want you to think about something here. Have you ever in your entire life heard of a baby that began the process of trying to learn how to walk, and at some point in that 6 months, 12 months, 18-month period, whatever it is, for a typical baby to go from crawling to walking, have you ever in the history of the world heard of a baby that got so discouraged in week 1 or month 3 or whatever it was that they went to mommy and daddy and said, "Phooey with this walking thing. I've hit my head one too many times on the coffee table, and these people keep laughing every time I fall down, and I'm just going to crawl the rest of my life." I mean, we go, "Oh, that's just a dumb analogy." Well, why is it a dumb analogy? I mean, what is the difference in every one of us has the dream and the goal of walking? If we didn't, we wouldn't have the desire. We wouldn't go through the failures. We wouldn't be willing to bump our head. We wouldn't go through falling down and scraping up our knee. And we would just quit. We would stop. The reason why we don't ever quit on walking is because we were made to walk. We were not made to crawl. And nobody wants to crawl the rest of their life. They can act like they do. They can say that that's what they want. But really deep down inside, they want to walk. And that's why every baby just keeps going and fails forward and does it until then. Well, what's the difference? At some point, everybody's had a dream and a goal burst inside of them. At some point, they've wanted to walk. And their walking may look different than the next guy. It might be time freedom, financial freedom. It might be traveling more. It might be living somewhere specific. It might be able to do a certain thing for a certain group of people. I don't know what that is. But why in the world would we ever put a time frame on our dreams and goals any different than why would a baby put a time frame on going from crawling to walking? Guys, I'm just telling you, I've been in the industry for 15 years. When I first joined network marketing in 1999 and dropped out of college and came home and told my parents, what I was going to do, I told every one of my buddies at college, dude, I'm going to make $100,000 this year. And they all laughed at me. And I was convinced of it. And I thought I would be a gazillionaire by 25, right? Man, I didn't even make $100,000 a year until I was 25, 6.5 years later. And I'm still not a multimillionaire 15 years later. together. And I've been all the way to $200,000 a year and down to living in the back bed in my brother's house at age 30. And so should I just throw in the towel? Should I give up because I'm 15 years in and I haven't gotten to the place that I thought I was going to be? Should I? No, because I can't ever do it because I'm destined to walk. Who I am and who you are is that we're not supposed to crawl through life settling for less than something that we're worth and settling for, something less than having control of our time and being able to do what we want, when we want, how we want, in whatever capacity that looks like. I'm not here to measure that for you. And so why does it matter? I mean, even if I continue to go for what I believed I was going to hit years ago, even if I'm 85 years old and I still haven't hit it, guys, let me tell you how great my life's been, though, in the last 15 years amongst all that failure. Caroline, my wife, and I have been married 14 years. We've been on over 50 honeymoons. We have traveled to Hawaii 3 times. We have been to some of the most exotic places you can go. We have had more paid vacations than most people have in a lifetime. We have traveled sometimes in 1 year 4 times than some of our friends have traveled in the last 2 decades combined. We have had time freedom for the most part to be able to raise our kids and never miss ball games or dance recitals. We've been able to pour into our marriage relationships. We've made amazing friends all over the U.S. I mean, we've made $2 million. Yeah, maybe we don't have much of it. Maybe we've had to learn the hard way. We haven't managed it as well as we could. We could have done things better, could have, should have, would have, but didn't, right? But at the end of the day, our worst life in the last 15 years as a network marketing professional and pro and entrepreneur, I don't know about you, but sure sounds a heck of a lot better than most people's 9 to 5 and never going on a honeymoon again, or man, we haven't been on vacation in 12 years, or we can't remember the last time we even went on a meaningful date and had conversation together. I mean, we've had spans in that time frame where we got to go on a $100 expense date every single week of our life. How can we take that for granted? Guys, I'm telling you, it's something special. So let me just read this to you. I'm telling you, I swear, you've got to be sitting down. You will not believe this. I got it on screenshot on my brother's phone. I'm not going to say the person's name, and I'm not going to say the group they're in because it's not about making fun of a person, but I am making fun of this retarded belief system. And if this doesn't fire you up for the nonsense that is taught in our society, that anyone could even have the ability to think this absurd, it ought to stir you at the absolute core. But this lady, she writes in, it doesn't matter, it could have been a man because they're just as big idiots sometimes as well in the way they think and believe. She says, "Wake up now, family. I am beginning to get very discouraged. I am having no luck in bringing anyone on board. I have given it my time and dedication, and I have neglected my family with no results. Can anyone please provide me with any tips or advice? And also, if you're in my area, it would be great if we could meet up." And the first comment is, "How long have you been in Wake Up Now?" And their response is, "1 flippin' week." Oh my God! 1 week. She's neglecting her family. She's having little to no success. She's discouraged. Lord have mercy on us. Are you telling me we've got an education system and a society that has raised up an adult that 1 week into launching a business with no results, that this would be her mind frame? I mean, if I wasn't driving, I'd just come out of my skin right now. I just cannot believe someone had the ability to think this retarded and put it into writing. Curtis is busting a gut over here in the front seat of the car. Folks, let me tell you, the enemy is retarded thinking. The enemy is the nonsense that our society teaches. This handout, I'm not capable, I'm not good, baloney. We got to come against that and be people that have a little bit more common sense, that are ready to use our brain and have some wisdom and have a little bit more thought than thinking a week is dedicating and neglecting our family and that we ain't got any results yet. I mean, God forbid the first time a baby falls down, if they just threw their hands up in the air and said, it's over, I mean, we would just be like, we'd be beating our baby, right? We think that was the dumbest thing ever. Woo! Man, all right, off of rant now. I mean, good Lord, I can't even remember what my second topic was now. But I'm just telling you guys, I may not even need to go into my second topic after that. So I'm just going to throw it back to Rob McFadden, dude. I'm on fire, and we ain't even got to the event yet. So go ahead and send it over to Ed or whatever, and y'all wrap up the leadership call. I'm out. Drop mic.
Unmuted.
Yeah. I was on mute. Anyway, his delivery was funnier than the comment itself. You have got to love Ryan. His passion and his desire to shake the tree and to get people off of the post and stop making excuses is, if you didn't feel that passion, that was, as I'm listening here, I'm literally, I can't stop smiling. My cheeks hurt because I appreciate so much what it is that he is trying to get across to this group of leaders. And in all reality, I had a not a similar experience to that, but I had an experience that was a little bit rattling from the standpoint that, you know, my son is out trying to get a job right now, and his comment to me was the other day. He says, "Dad, I think I made a good impression on this owner, and I think I did a good job. I think I got the job." And I said, "Great. When do you start?" He goes, "Well, no, I think I got the job." I said, "Okay, why do you think that you got the job?" He says, "Well, I had good references. I turned in my resume. It was neat. I was sharply dressed." And then 3 days later, he calls me, or he says to me as I'm walking by him, he goes, "Hey, Dad, how long does it take to hear back from a job?" And I said, "Well, that depends." I said, "Are they hiring immediately, or are they hiring for summer work and they're trying to just get advance notice and get in some applications?" I said, "It really depends." And he said, "Oh, okay." And he sat there and he thought about it for a second, and he goes, "So what do you think if I were to call them and ask them, what's the next step?" And I said, "I love it. What do you think that would do?" He says, "Well, I think that would show initiative." And so on the flip side of that is I'm trying to raise my son to think forward and think ahead and be in charge of kind of his own responses and his own responsibility and his own process. And so, yes, I think, unfortunately, Mr. Lelf, we are raising a society of people that are surprised and shocked at immediate results. In fact, on the earlier call, I believe you said we live in a microwave society, which in reality, if you've ever watched the comedian Brian Regan, he does a set where he talks about a Pop-Tart. And he talks about the fact that there are both toaster and microwave instructions on this Pop-Tart sack. And he is dumbfounded that we are living in a society that you actually have to explain how to microwave a Pop-Tart. It literally says, put on the microwave, or in the microwave on high for 3 seconds. He's like, if you are so tightly wound in your schedule that you have to get out of bed and eat within 3 seconds, he's like, buddy, you got to dial it back a little. You got to loosen up your schedule. So I appreciate the mentality that Ryan is trying to get across, which is people. We are responsible business owners. We do not look to somebody else to solve our problems. We do not look to somebody else to answer our questions. In fact, I started and I launched a mentor program yesterday. And I want to highlight just one experience that I've had. I have now done 18 three-way calls since launching my mentor program yesterday. And because one of the specific tasks that I asked the individuals in the mentor program to do was I specifically asked them to set up 3 three-way calls between now and Saturday, it was a total of 3 days. That they hosted those 3-way calls with me individually, not get them together on a webinar, not get all 3 of them together on a conference call, but individually host these calls with me so that they could hear how it was and understand the position of what they were in as the invitee on that call. So they invited someone to the call and then brought me on, or had me on the call and then brought somebody on to the call. And then I also asked them to hold three-way calls with members of their teams. Not with every member of their team, of course, but 3 calls with somebody from their team over the next 3 days. And the reason that I wanted to cram all that in together was because I wanted them to have a high volume of 3-way calls in a short period of time where they were they were sitting in different roles. It was as a position of the subject matter expert, and then also in the position as the individual who was inviting someone on as the prospect. So they were the independent business owner on one side, and then they were the subject matter expert on the other calls. And the whole objective was so that they could see the difference in the mindset that they had to be in when they were fulfilling those different roles. Well, long story short, I've done 18 of them in a day and a half, which means the 8 people that are on my mentor program have started to yield some serious traction in terms of 3-way calls. And I appreciate how they have each grabbed the bull by the horn, and they have set these up, and they are moving forward with might to get these accomplishments done in the way that they were asked to do them. Well, in addition to that, I said part of the other task is I asked them to each identify up to 3 people that they could mentor in parallel with my mentor program with them. And the objective with that is I want them to not only understand the mindset and the things that I'm trying to teach them and impart to them of my 21 years, but to turn around and become the teacher and teach it to somebody else so that they can understand the transition between, okay, I am receiving information here. Now, what are all the ways that I receive information? And then I'm imparting that information over here to somebody else, and I'm watching their results. So the thing I wanted to highlight is I actually have one of my members on my team her name is Jackie Mims, and she's part of my Baltimore team. She is a phenomenal human being. I love her to death. But she actually launched her mentor program today, a day after being involved with mine. And her logic for that was she said, Rob, I literally want to take the information that you're giving me. I want to implement it. I want to see what I learn out of it and how I learn out of it. And I immediately want to take that information and impart it to the next group because I want to develop my layers of leadership. She says, one thing you guys talk about consistently, you, Ryan, Ed, you're always talking about layers of leadership and how I can develop my leaders to go ahead and develop their leaders who will in turn develop their leaders. And she's like, I finally have it after the time that I've been involved in this process. I finally understand how important duplication is to the overall success of the team. And the point that came out on our interview that we did last night late, she called me at 1:30 her time. It was 10:30 my time. And I went ahead and picked up the phone, and the two of us ended up having an hour conversation. The first half hour was our interview as me as the mentor, her as the mentee. And then the other half hour was me just strengthening relationships with my buddy. And in that process, when we were talking about this layers of leadership and the process of duplication and why that is so important to the overall success and of your business, she's like, it's just light bulbs have been popping all over the place for me lately because I'm now starting to think about how do my actions impart to the next group and how will I in turn help them duplicate. And so she is literally taking the mentor program and immediately turning around and imparting that information to her team in real time. And it's just really impressive to see that process happening. I did not give them a time frame. I said, go ahead if you want to delay a week, delay 2 weeks, delay a month. My whole point is that you sometime during this process, you start a parallel mentor program so that you can start training up your next layers of leadership. I had no idea that someone would take the initiative to start their program the very next day. I mean, God bless America. I was so impressed by that. I can't even tell you. So a couple things I want to highlight on this particular call. In one of the things that I asked my mentor program to do is I asked them to, over the next 3 days, so they still have 48 hours to do it, and I haven't seen the reports yet on how many they've done so far and what the experiences have been, but I have asked them to, everybody that they come across or they introduce themselves to, I want them to start asking people who they know in our other markets. Thailand, Taiwan, Singapore, Peru, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Mexico. It doesn't matter. If they see someone speaking French, you never know if they're in Montreal. That doesn't mean they're from France. I mean, the whole point to this process is I want everybody to start, as you're building locally, I want you to think globally. And so here's what's transpired out of just a day. One day in that process. Here's the stories that I've been receiving. I had one of the gentlemen who are part of this process. One of the ladies that is a part of this mentor program. She called me and said, Rob, I just had a very interesting experience with asking people about, who they know in our markets. Well, I said, great, tell me about it. And she says, this is what happened. She says, I overheard a gal speaking Spanish to a young child and then turn around and speak English to a store clerk. And in that process, it dawned on me that, well, clearly she lives here, she's from here, but she speaks Spanish in the home, so she's probably got some very close roots to the Spanish culture. And she says, I didn't know if she was from Spain. I didn't know if she was from Ecuador or Guatemala or Mexico. I didn't know. So I was actually curious. So I went up and said, you have a beautiful accent. I love that. I assumed that it was Spanish you were speaking. And the lady said, oh, yes, I speak Spanish. That's my first language. And she says, where are you from? And she says, well, I'm from Sonora, Mexico. And so she immediately followed up with saying, if you're from Sonora, Mexico, I am actually a business owner here in the local area, and I'm looking to launch a business in Mexico. Do you know anybody that is business-minded, wants to start a business, wants to make some extra money, either part or full-time? Do you know anybody that would fit into that mold in the Guadalajara area? She says, oh, well, I'm from Sonora, but my family lives in Guadalajara. She says, oh, excellent, that's great. And the reason that that's important is because we're doing a massive launch event on July 12th in Guadalajara, Mexico. So everybody right now should be thinking globally, and specifically Guadalajara, Mexico. Everybody you come across that you think even remotely speaks Spanish, you should be asking them if they have people in Guadalajara, in Mexico in general, but specifically Guadalajara, that are interested in starting a business, making some extra money, either part or full-time, and being a business owner. Now, here's where the best part is. This is where the learning experience came in. She said to me, she says, I didn't know where to go from that point. She's like, I kind of just stood there, and the gal said her family was from Guadalajara, and I said, oh, that's great. Can you pass? She's like, I didn't know how to say, can you give me their information or what? She's like, I was kind of at an impasse. And she said, so ultimately I kind of let the thing just fall apart. And I said, well, did you at least get that gal's information? And she says, no, believe it or not, I didn't. I kind of just got stuck and I didn't know where to go from there. She says, what would you have done? I said, well, first of all, I wouldn't have let the gal leave without at least asking for her email or, if she was on Facebook or her phone number that you could follow up with her to ask her about her family. So we kind of role played it out. And this is the scenario that came up. I said, look, at that moment when you said, I'm launching a business here locally, but I'm also growing a business in Mexico, and more specifically Guadalajara, do you know anybody? And when that gal said, hey, yes, I'm from Sonora, but my family lives in Guadalajara, immediately you should have said, that's wonderful. Do you know if how many of them, not if, don't give her a yes or no question, ask how many of those people does she think would be interested in starting their own business and the freedom that comes with that. And so from there, the conversation, the way I see that conversation evolving is, well, no, take it back. The gal did ask her, she says, well, what kind of business is it? And immediately, this is where the conversation should have gone this way. You know what? It is such a wonderful business. I have fallen in love with how much this business has blessed my life. I really enjoy being an entrepreneur and the freedoms that it gives me. And I also love training other people to start their own business. But now is not the time. We're in the grocery store. I see you've got ice cream in your cart. I don't want your ice cream to melt. And I have a great amount of respect for my time. And I also respect your time. So would you do me a favor? At this point, I would love to tell you all about it. But do you mind if I just follow up with you either this afternoon or tomorrow? And then we can have a conversation where my head is clear because right now I'm just grocery shopping and really my head's not in it. And nor should yours be, because you've got your young child and ice cream in your cart. So let's set up an appointment and I'll follow up with you. So that to me should have been the immediate moment where that's your first ability to take it away. You don't want to say a diatribe about Wake Up Now or about being a business owner in the middle of a grocery store. What you do want to do is you want to get their phone number, and in reality, when they're giving you a phone number, in case they're giving you a wrong number, just throwing it out there, say, I'm going to put this in my phone immediately and I'm just going to call you so that you can capture my number and you can put my number in your phone so when I call you, you'll know who it is. That keeps people honest in that process. And anyway, so at that point, I think that this is a great opportunity or a great segue, not only to introduce people to Wake Up Now, but to the ability of starting a business in Mexico, but also gives you the ability to give them a takeaway. You want to give them a takeaway right in the beginning and say, you know what, now is not the time. I would love to talk to you about this, but now is not the time. So let's set an appointment where I need about 15 to 20 minutes of your time, where I'm going to call you and then I'll walk you through some process. I'll share with you some videos and stuff like that ultimately will explain it for you, and I'll show you how simple the process is to ultimately introduce you to what it is that I'm doing. But don't give her anything, especially the name of Wake Up Now or what you're doing, because then that gives them the opportunity to go research something, find somebody else, or because they have zero belief at that point, anything that they find negative online would ultimately destroy them because they don't have that level of belief. The other day I wrote down a quote, and I'm going to share it with you right now. I wrote it on my whiteboard so that I didn't forget it because it coincides with this, what I'm just saying. On a call, I said, your reality will always conform to your level of belief. Your reality will always conform to your level of belief. So think about somebody who's brand new. They don't have any belief yet. In fact, some people who are brand new in the business still don't have a level of belief. In Ryan's example, it is a perfect example of somebody not having any belief yet. That woman who did that post and who had been in and invested an entire week, I mean, for the love of Pete, that's 7 days that this woman has invested in this business, in herself, in her future, and yet she was discouraged. Well, clearly, her reality is mirroring her level of belief. So, right now, there is circulating online. You are leaders on this call. So I'm going to bring this up and then I'm going to wrap it up. There's something circulating online that's called a hit letter right now. And all it is it's a draft of something that highlights things out of Wake Up Now's annual report. And it makes them sound like a negative. But I need you to understand that all my leaders, they send it to me and say, hey, FYI, look what I got 3 times today. Ha ha ha. The reason that my leaders come from that perspective is the leader's level of belief is off the charts. They get that in business, you run a deficit, especially when the person running the deficit, it's their money in the business. They don't need to pull the money out. Kirby, Jason, Phil, they don't need to pull the money out of the company. They're the ones that put the money in originally. So they'd rather leave it in and operate at a debt in order to keep the company amazingly secure than to pull out the money, fatten their own pockets, and then put the money at risk, or the company at risk. So this hit letter that keeps floating around out there, it's comical the different approaches that I get. People that are brand new send it to me like, oh my gosh, Rob, have you seen this? What are we going to do? And I laugh and I try to take them off the ledge and explain to them that every company in the world has 10 or 15 hit letters out there against them. And all it is just people trying to drum up leads online, other companies that are trying to detract, because keep this in mind. The leader always has the target on their back, always. And right now, Wake Up Now is in the forefront of the pack. And because Wake Up Now is in the forefront of the pack, we are the ones with the target on our backs. God bless America. If we didn't have a hit letter out there against us, I'd feel sad. I would feel disappointed if someone didn't think enough of us to try to take us down. So God bless America. Now, when I get those, someone that their level of belief usually coincides with their involvement in the company. So if they've been in a long time, but yet have not engaged, time is irrelevant. It's about your level of engagement, and engagement increases your belief. So your reality will always mirror your belief. So I am galvanized. I consider myself someone who's galvanized. It would literally take an atomic bomb to blow me out of Wake Up Now, because I know how much I believe in leadership and how much I believe in the value proposition that we offer. So my belief level is matching, or my reality is matching my belief, which means my business is growing. I've got great people around me, people that I love, people I respect, people I am happy to travel the world with, people that I enjoy their association. When my team calls me and wants to do a three-way call, I'm elated because I love spending time with them. So with that, I don't know what it is that I was saying on the earlier call. I was kind of in a mode earlier, and I was about ready to say something. In fact, I got a text from one of the gentlemen on my team who said, "Man, I hate that the call dropped off because you were at a point where I know you were about to say something that was going to blow my mind." Well, in reality, the reason we record these is because I can't remember what I was going to say. Ryan can't remember what he was going to say earlier. He's like, "I don't even remember what my second topic was." And I guess it doesn't really matter. So in reality, that's why you're supposed to be on all of these calls, because something gets said, some pearl of wisdom gets shared, and you're like, mind blown. Mind equals blown. Awesome. With that said, my friends, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. We have a solid group of people on this call. I respect every one of you that take time and energy out of your day to invest in yourself. And that's all you're doing with this call. You're saying my time is worth enough, my future is worth enough, that I'm going to invest my time learning from the leaders, being on the calls, being participatory. When someone asks me to step up and say, "Can you host a call?" I'm the first one to put my hands up. And I want every single one to have that type of an attitude, because your future and your reality and your success is all tied to your level of action, involvement, engagement, and belief. With that, my name is Rob McFadden, No Collar Pro. God bless America. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Your conference recording has stopped. Goodbye.
Goodbye.